Hello, welcome to Book Up Session. I'm Ashley Gunn. Today's book review is going to be on Reign of the Vampire by Rebekah Ganiere. This is the first book of the Society series. Right now, there's 3 books in this series. The last one was written in 2016, so we might get lucky and there might be some more. I have not read the last 2 books. They're on hold on my Overdrive app, so I will be reading those and I'll do reviews on those also. But I was very excited because when you're talking about vampire stories and you're talking about fantasy series in general, sometimes they can be very predictable, and Rebekah's brain blew me away. I was very, very excited when I started this. This book is about a world where vampires rule the earth, and human beings are on the run or they're slaves, and that's just the way that their lives are. The way that this is set up is so that each individual city has a coven and a lord that runs that manor. And the one that we're mainly focusing on in this book is going to be ran by a woman. Her nickname's Nika, so we're just going to call her Lord Nika. And she is the youngest and a woman in charge of this beautiful, huge, powerful coven. She still has this idea that even though she's a vampire, there's a society to run, and she should be, have some morals and values along with that. She loved her parents. She doesn't really think anything of the fact that humans are slaves, because humans enslaved other humans. So why is it such a weird thing that vampires enslave humans? Though she does treat everyone well. And I love that Rebekah set that up. So each city and each lord treats the people under their care however they want. In this book specifically, you're going to deal a lot with the Lord in Las Vegas, and he treats his slaves horribly. His coven's kind of, everyone does what they want. There's murder and chaos, and so they're very different, but he is trying to seek Nika's hand in marriage basically because he wants her money and her town. The other really fascinating part, there's so many fascinating parts about this book, but you have 3 huge, really powerful, they're called the kings of the United States, where they monitor all of the lords, and their decisions, the 3 kings' decisions, are final. Let's go over some of the other really cool things about this book. I like the way that the vampires, especially Nika, understood that you're going to have to coincide with humans. Now granted, towards the end of the book, that's going to become a little bit more important to her, but in the beginning of the book, she understands that she has to have human blood. She does own a company that makes synthetic blood, and that's part of this storyline, because there's different types of vampires, and if you are a vampire born a vampire, then you can drink human blood. But if you're not, there's this plague that essentially was unleashed and nobody knows how it happened, and it turned some humans into vampires. Those ones can only drink synthetic blood. Drinking human blood makes them go crazy and get a bloodthirst. That's a huge part of this story, because people in Nika's town start getting this bloodthirst, and they have to kind of uncover how that's happening. Along with that, you're going to have, like I said, human slaves, you're going to have guardians, and you're going to have assistants. So there's just different parts of the hierarchy, essentially. But if you are part of Nika's coven, it doesn't really matter which one. You're going to be treated with some respect, although people will own you. And the way that it works in her coven is that anybody who is owned wears a bracelet or a collar, and if you go so far outside the compound, at first you're going to get a little shock, and the further you go out, eventually you'll be electrocuted to death. That way it can keep people from running away. Like I mentioned, there are humans on the run, and this book starts off with being part of a group of humans that are hiding in this mountain. And the way that that scene was written was really well thought out, because it wasn't like the humans were trying to fight off vampires. That would be impossible. Instead, they're just trying to wait them out until the sun comes up and the vampires have to retire. Honestly, this entire book, I felt like Rebekah really thought out, if you were really living in this society, how would everything work? Where would everybody's places be in the world? And how would you survive if you weren't one of the slaves? It was incredibly well done. And this may sound completely insane because you haven't read the book, but it's also written so some of the humans are completely content living in captivity, because they found their place where they have food, they know they're safe, they know they're going to have a nice bed to live in. They're not going to constantly be on the run and having to worry about survival. And so there's that dynamic where, although yes, some people want their freedom and don't want to be part of the coven, other parts really just want that security and that safety, which I think in some ways would probably happen if this all happened in real life. Also, so many incredible things, and I don't want to spoil it. But essentially, like I said, there's going to be this idea where the Las Vegas Lord wants to take over Nika's coven, as well as the bloodthirsty vampires that they can't exactly figure out what's going on. The main thing that's going to happen in this book, though, is she buys this guardian, this huge human that's up for auction. pays this astronomical amount of money for him. His name is Mason. That's basically what I personally think is like the core of this book. I'm not going to go into exactly what he is and stuff. Obviously, he's not human like she thinks he is. But my absolutely favorite thing that happened in that part was that vampire's blood is cold and his blood was hot. And I loved the way that it was described so that they craved the other feeling. So Mason craved feeling that cold rush of blood calming him, where she loved having that feeling of life when she was warmed up by his blood. It was one of those things where yin and yang, they were perfect for each other even at a blood level. There were a couple of little issues I had, and again, this is the very first book of the series, but there ends up being 5 love interests in it. I just felt like that was a little extreme. It definitely needed to be pared down. Obviously, I don't see that continuing to be an issue through the rest of the series because, I mean, you can't have 5 love interests in every single one of the books. The end of this book blew me away. When Nika meets with the 3 kings at the end, you can tell that she's found her confidence and knows what she's doing is right. So instead of asking questions or being kind of meek about it, because like I said, she's the first woman lord and the youngest lord, so she definitely feels like she has to, I don't know, meet expectations. By the end of this, she decides to trust her feelings and do what's in her heart. Just absolutely incredible. I loved that scene. Before the end of the book, you will find out what Mason is, and that confused me a little bit because he said that when he fully transforms, that he sends out a beacon to his people. I didn't understand why he wouldn't fully transform then earlier so that he could be rescued from his people. It is said that a fairy pulled him from his realm, him and his mother, and brought them to this world. And I don't know, maybe he didn't want his people to come over because he thought it would like create a war or something. I wish that was explained a little bit better. Overall, completely blown away by the storyline. I am so excited to read the rest of the series because I've not read anything this unique and just incredible in a very long time. I would take all of the little issues I had with this book any day, just simply because a beyond original. Absolutely loved it. And like I said, I know one of the other stories are going to have fairies in it. Cannot wait to see what Rebekah has in store for them. I read this book, and I know the other 2 books are available on the Overdrive app, so check those out if you have the Overdrive app or pick them up from your library. Anyways, I hope this review helped you guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave that down below. If you like this review, like it. If you want to see my videos every week, subscribe, and I will see you all again soon. Thank you for joining me.